Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Remodel Design class. My name is Nick, and I'll be doing the presentation with you today. Just like all of our previous webinars, everybody will be on mute. So if you do happen to have any questions at any point during the class, please feel free to go ahead and type those into the questions area. And at the end of the class, I'll go through and I'll answer any questions that may have come up. Also, at the end of the class, I will be sending out an email that will contain a document that covers everything that we're going to be going over in today's class. Should you happen to have any questions while going over this document, please feel free to contact our support department. They'll be happy to help you out with any questions. Again, today's class is on remodel design, and my name is Nick. So in today's class, we're going to be going over a remodel project that involves denoting on the plan what is new, what is existing, and what will be demolished. We're also going to look at how to denote the various elements and to ensure that only the new construction elements are going to appear in your materials lists. So first, let's take a look at creating renovation elements. So in today's class, we're going to go through the process of adding in a new renovation element, and we're going to review the remodel elements that exist in the exit catalog already. So first, let's create a new element. So we're first going to add in a new wall to our catalog. So to do this, we're going to go up and we're going to select File, Catalogs, and we're going to select Element Manager. You can also simply right-click in the catalog panel on the right-hand side of the screen and select Element Manager to bring up the Element Manager dialog box. Once the Element Manager dialog box is open, we're going to go into our Walls folder. And we're going to go down, and in our Walls folder, we're going to find the Custom folder option. So at the very bottom, you should see Custom. We're just going to open up the custom option there. In the custom option, we're going to select existing wall, which is down at the very bottom, and we're going to right click and we're going to simply select add element. By selecting add element, we are now creating a new wall that's going to be added to this catalog. By selecting existing wall, we're using that as a base point to create that wall. So we want to use the existing wall because it's going to have a lot of the properties that we want to adopt for our new wall that we're going to be creating. And we're actually going to be creating a new existing interior wall for our catalog. So the first thing I want to do is I want to again make sure it is set to general. Now, I want this wall set to general because I want to remove any framing from this wall. Again, we're creating an existing wall, so all of the framing that is going to be used for this wall will already be in the house or the design. So I don't need to include that framing at all. I just want to show where the walls are. I don't want the framing to be included. So again, we're just going to select General. And also underneath the Basic tab, we're going to change the size and the type of the wall to resemble the existing wall construction that you're going to need. Since this is going to be an interior wall, we're going to change the B width and the C airspace values to 0. We don't need to include any kind of a thickness to the exterior because this is an interior wall. So we're just going to make sure that those are both set to 0. If we scroll down, we're going to keep the drywall on both the left and the right side, and we're going to leave that as 1/2 inch. It is going to be a 2x6 interior wall, so we're going to leave the actual core width at 5.5 inches. On the Appearance tab, and we're going to click on the Appearance tab here. So once you click on the Appearance tab, you can assign the materials for each component that is listed. You can set a glass element to the wall if you want it to appear transparent in your 3D views. This will help visualize where the wall was and what it will look like if it was to be removed. I'm going to leave mine as just the defaults, which should just be using the Revere Pewter, which is the default wall color that we use for our walls. But you can again change this to be whatever color that you want. We're now going to select the Line Work tab, And on the line work tab, we're going to select the 2D core, the 2D exterior surface, the 2D left interior surface, and the 2D right interior surface in our component list. So I'm going to select exterior surface, and I'm just going to hold my shift key down, and I'm just going to select all the way down to this option right here. So this will select all of those elements in our design. Sorry, we're going 2D core, and we're going right down to 2D interior surface. We're going to select these options here. This is going to change the color of the lines that we're going to be using when we see this in 2D. So the walls, or the layer that we're going to be using here, is going to be on the walls existing layer. So here we can see we have walls existing selected. This was already being used because we were using the original existing wall option, but we want this to be on the same layer because we want this to be a set color. So when we look at it in our plan views, it's going to be very noticeable as to what walls are what in our design. This will also reflect when we print out our drawings as well, because these walls will use a specific line weight assigned to them and a line type. So if I just click on the little browse button here, we can see here that walls existing is going to be a gray color. It's going to be a continuous line style, but it's going to have a very light line weight. I don't want these walls to be prominent in my design because they're already they're already added in real life, so I really don't need to show them as a prominent feature. I want the new construction, or what I'm going to be doing to this project, to be the prominent lines. So we set that as a very light line weight. Again, you can control this, adjust it in any way that you feel is going to be best for your designs. We're going to say OK to that. And then we're just going to go up here and we're going to make sure we change the name of this wall. We want to make sure that it is set to be not existing wall. We're going to call it existing interior. And you can put wall at the end if you want to. So now we've created a new existing interior wall. The last thing I want to take a look at is the quantity tab. And when you click on the quantity tab, we're going to make sure that we do a couple of different things in here. So since we selected the existing wall from the catalog, it's already got everything removed quantity-wise from this particular wall. So right here, I can see that it doesn't have any assemblies assigned to it. And I also have both the including quantities and the replace with assemblies unchecked. This just means nothing in regards to this wall is going to show up in our reports. And that's exactly what we want. I am just going to change the part number. Again, you can minimize or adjust this however you want to. I'm just going to go existing and just going to go interior and then do wall, just to give it a different part number. But since we don't have it as a part anywhere in the quantities, it's really not going to be displayed anywhere. But if you ever need to show it for whatever reason, make sure you change the part number as well. So now that we've given it a new name, we've adjusted the quantities, we've adjusted the line weights to include these line weight styles that we want to use. We've adjusted the appearance as needed. We have also gone through and underneath the trim, since we have this as a existing wall already, it has the trim removed. If you want to show the trim on these walls in your design, because they do have trim on them, you will need to create a new trim option in the catalog so it doesn't report it in your list. If I leave trim on as an example, so let's say I add in trim on the left side, and I just say, let's just add in a baseboard, and I hit select, it's going to grab whatever baseboard that I want, but it will then be reported in my quantity reports. So I need to create a new trim option in here so that way we don't see it in our reports. And to do that, you can just simply select whatever style of trim is going to be used throughout the existing house. And then you're just going to create a new option called existing. And if you double click on that and you go into the quantities, again, we would just make sure there's no assemblies and that it's not being included in the quantity reports. To show you an example of what it used to look like before that, when I went into quantities, I would have the include and quantities option selected. So I've already created a existing baseboard, and this will show the baseboard in 3D, but it's not going to show up in my quantity reports. And I would do this for not only my baseboards, I would also do it for any casings. So any openings that I add in, I want to make sure I see the casing in 3D, but I don't want it to quantify. I'm not going to add anything in our design for right now. I'm just going to leave that all blank. And underneath the basic tab again, we just made sure that we gave it the correct thickness, and we removed any thicknesses that we didn't need, especially on the exterior surface. Once you're done with that, you're going to simply say OK. And that creates the brand new existing interior wall for our design. So now in our catalog, if we look, we now have a existing interior wall, an existing exterior wall, and we also have a demolished wall. And I just want to take a look at the demolished wall with you for one quick second here. So the demolished wall has a lot of the same properties that the existing interior wall would have, except it's going to have an appearance of common glass. So this is where I'm going to show it as a different wall style when in 3D. So I'll actually be able to see through this wall. So this is a great way to show how that wall, while in 2D is going to be visible, how in 3D you're going to see through it, so they get an idea of what that open space is going to look like. And you can again adjust the actual materials that are going to be used here. Right now we have this as a common glass, so it does have a bit of a gray tinge to it, so you will still see the wall a little bit because it's kind of a gray color, but you will see right through it because it is translucent. So again, that is the demolished wall. You can again adjust the materials that are going to be used on it. Under the line work, you can again adjust how you want the walls demolished to show up. Some people would rather see this all as instead of a green line, they will rather see it as a red line. So you can just go into walls demolished. I do believe walls demolished is a part of the catalog already. And you can just say, well, instead of being green, I just want to change that color, and I'm just going to make it red. And I can say OK, and that will automatically change that for you. So now if I add this wall in 2D, I'm going to see it as a red dash dot line style, which is still going to be very light. And I'll see that in my drawings instead of the green dash dots. And it'll also be different than the gray color that we're seeing for existing. And I'm just going to say OK. And then now that I'm done editing all of the work in that catalog, I'm just going to simply say OK. So that's going to save the catalog for us. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to draw an existing plan. So once the catalog elements have been created, it is then just a matter of using the walls correctly in your plan views. So we're going to start first by drawing the existing floor plan and then develop the new and demolished walls. In our example product, we're going to create just a single story plan, and we're going to add a bump out in the back of the plan for a new addition. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up and we're going to select Insert Walls, and we're going to select Walls by Baseline. So under Insert Walls, Walls by Baseline. In my catalog panel on the right-hand side, I'm going to go into my custom folder and I'm going to select Existing Wall. I'm going to bring my mouse into my drawing area, and I'm going to position my cursor in the lower left region of the drawing area. So I'm just going to left click once right here. We're going to move the mouse to the right, and this defines an angle of 0 for our first wall. So again, we can see direction is 0, we're moving to the right. and I want to type in an actual distance. You'll notice that the distance dialog is highlighted in blue. Right here, we can see it as blue. So all I have to do is simply type in 25 feet, making sure I put the foot sign in because Envisioneer assumes inches unless you add in your foot sign. So again, make sure you put in the foot sign and then press enter. And then we're just going to move our mouse up in the 90-degree direction. Again, notice that the closed polygon is now formed. So I'm seeing a bit of a triangle look to our design. With my mouse moved up in the 90-degree direction, I'm just going to type in 10 feet and press enter. I'm going to move my mouse to the right again in the 0 direction, and we're going to go over 5 feet, enter. I'm going to move my mouse upwards, again, 90-degree direction. We're going to type in 20 feet, and I'm going to move my mouse all the way to the left. Now, I can do a couple of different things here to create the final point for my design. I can just simply type in the 30-foot dimension because I have the 25 foot and the 5 foot make 30 foot. Or if I have snap track turned on, I can reference the first point and it will find that for me and it will create that line. And all I have to now do is just simply left click to add in that point. So again, type in the distance and press enter if you know the exact distance. If it's a more complex design and you're not sure what the value is, but you know you have a point that you can reference, use your snap track tool to reference that point, and then you can add in the final spot for your walls. Once you're done, you don't need to go back to the first point. This is a self-enclosed polyline. All we have to do now is simply right-click and select Finish. If at any point during this process you had made a mistake or you entered in a wrong value or something seems a bit off, you don't need to cancel. You can simply right-click to bring up your context menu and you can select the Step Back option. The Step Back option will allow you to step all the way back to the very first point. So that way you can go right back to the point where you made your mistake and then continue on from there. We're going to simply say Finish. And this will bring up the Walls by Baseline dialog box. And here's where you can specify which wall line your baseline represents. Was it the outer face of the veneer? Was it the outer face of the wall core or stud? Or was it the inner face of the wall core or stud? You can also specify an offset distance towards the outside or inside, again, depending on the points that you were using. We're going to leave ours as the outer face of the veneer, and I'm not going to need to apply any kind of a distance because the points I selected were exact measurements to the veneer itself. So all I'm going to do here is simply say OK. And that creates a gray plan view that we can now see. So again, we added in the existing walls. So it's using the existing wall layer, and that is that gray layer style that we're looking at right now. So now we're going to insert some more walls. And this time we're going to go up and we're going to select under Insert, we're going to select Walls, we're going to select Walls. We're going to add in our interior walls. So we don't want to use the Walls by Baseline tool here. We want to make sure that we use the actual Walls tool. So with the Walls command active, I'm now just going to go into my catalog panel and I'm going to select the existing interior wall that we just created. I'm going to position my cursor in this bottom corner right here, and we're going to left click once to start that wall. This will snap the wall to the center of that corner, and I can now move my mouse up or to the left to start to create a new wall. And we're just going to drag this wall all the way over to the left, and I'm going to bring my mouse so that it snaps to the center of the core of the wall to the left. That will let me know that I am actually snapping to the core itself, and it will heal the corners and the intersections for me. So once I see that circle with an X, I left click, and I can now zoom in and see that the intersections look nice and clean. In the catalog panel, I'm going to select the demolished wall option, and I'm going to now right click and I'm going to select the Enter Insertion Offset. This option lets you offset the next wall a specific distance away from an existing wall. And we're going to type in 10 feet, again making sure to put the foot sign in. And then we're going to simply click OK. We're then going to position our cursor away from the corner and from the wall that we want to insert from. So whenever I look at a corner, this is the area that I want to offset 10 feet from. So as soon as I move my mouse towards that, it's going to automatically place that wall 10 feet away from that corner. If I move down to this corner, it's going to move 10 feet from that corner. If I move to this corner, it's going to be 10 feet from that corner, and so on. So you can define exactly where you want the walls to go based on the intersection that you're going to be working with. So if you also notice where my mouse is, I'm not even anywhere near that 10-foot mark. I just simply left click once and it automatically snaps that wall to that 10-foot point, and it then adds it in. Now we're going to see that new wall added in, and we're going to see that green dash dot line style for that wall. Now, I'm not sure why it's still showing as a green, so let me just double check here. And line style. So we're going to change that to be the, I wonder if it is, okay, so we're going to change that to be, I'm just going to say by layer. That will change it to be the red color. I'm just going to delete that wall out. Just want to double check why this isn't adopting that change. So that is set to red. And we're going to bring that in, enter insertion offset of 10 feet. I will look into that and see why that is not accepting that change. And for now, I'm just going to make sure I change that manually here. And we're just going to go in and say walls core. I just want to see if I just need to adjust it here. And then we'll go back to walls demolished. No, still, okay, I'll look into that and see what's happening there, because that should be using the red color. I'm not quite sure why it's still referencing the green. So I will look into that and see what's happening there. So we'll make that red for now. And that will now show us the demolished wall in our design. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is inserting the existing plan onto a worksheet. So in this part of the class, we're going to insert the plan view of the existing floor plan onto a worksheet so that we can show what is existing versus what is going to be new. So we're going to go down to our floor plan, and in our floor plan sheet, we are now moving from model into a working drawing sheet. And in this working drawing sheet, we're just going to simply go up and we're going to select under Insert, Smart Views, we're going to select the Define Smart View option. This will allow us to define a smart view that we want to insert. And here we can see the plan that we've been working on, as well as the terrain. Now, we don't need to see the terrain, so we're going to make sure that we turn that off and any other elements that we don't want to see using the view filter. So we're going to make sure that we change the name, first of all, to be existing floor plan. Now this is important. So we want to make sure that we change the name existing floor plan. We're going to keep it on the ground floor. We're going to make it a 1/4 inch. We're going to make sure that it's set as a drawing. But in the view filter, I'm going to turn off the terrain. So I'm just going to make sure that in the view filter, under elements on terrain, I close the eye. Anything else that I don't want to see, I would make sure I have those turned off as well. And I'm just going to say OK to that. And now I'm going to see the floor plan of our existing design. And now I'm just going to say insert. And attached to my cursor is going to be the existing floor plan. If I wanted to show dimensions on here, I would go back into my model view. I would make sure I have this existing plan completely finished with everything that I want to show, windows, doors, dimensions, make sure that is all complete, and then insert your smart view. The reason I do say that is there's going to be a couple of ways that you can proceed from this point forward. So we've now established our existing plan in our drawing area. And from here, we're now going to be able to start to show what the new elements are. So there's two ways that you can proceed from here. You can go up and say File, Save, and give this a name, and we're just going to call this Nick Existing, and we're going to save that to your projects folder. So you've now created a new project called Nick Existing. I typically do it in this way. This way I have a backup of what the existing house is. I then go in and say File, Save As, and I call this Nick, and I call it Proposed. And then I say Save. So I now have the existing file with what the house was exactly as it was, and now I have a new file that is called Nick Proposed. And what I can do from here is I can go back into my model view, and I can now edit this freely without having to worry about losing any of the existing work that I have done, because I have the file saved as the existing file. So if I ever need to go back to it, I can, and I can copy from it. I can take the smart view from it. I can do whatever I need to because I have the existing as a backup. In here, what I'm going to be able to do is I can now start to edit this to show the new elements. So now that the existing structure has been depicted, we can now bring in the new elements to illustrate what the new layout is going to be. So now that we're back in model view, we're going to go back in, we're going to select Insert Walls, and we're going to select Walls. So we're going to go up to Insert, Walls, and Walls. In the catalog panel, we're going to select any of the wall types, but not the demolished, the existing, or the existing interior wall types that are in our custom folder. So we want to illustrate a new wall, and all of the other walls in the catalog have full values assigned to them. So let's add in a siding wall out the back. We're going to do a 2x6 cement board panel wall, and I'm going to bring my mouse into my drawing area. I'm going to right click, enter insertion offset, and I'm going to type in 5 feet, and I'm going to say OK. I'm going to bring my mouse in so that it snaps to the exterior corner here, and I'm just going to left click once to place that new wall in. I'm going to move my mouse upwards. I'm going to type in 15 feet. I'm going to move my mouse to the left, so we're going in the 180-degree direction. We're going to go 15 feet, enter, and now we're just going to bring our mouse down and we're going to snap it to the center of that wall. So now we're starting to see the difference in our plan. So I can see the gray dotted line, I can see the red line that we've added in, and then depending on if you've changed the color or not, it may be green. And then I'm seeing the actual colors of the new wall. So now I'm seeing the blue and the brown and the green that make up the interior surface, the core, and the exterior veneer. This represents our new construction. I'm now going to add in a roof. So when you add a roof on the structure, it will either all quantify or all not quantify. So we will step through how to quantify only the roof portion over the new addition. So we're going to first go in, we're going to select Insert Roofs, and we're going to do Roof by Perimeter. So we select Roofs, and we're going to select Roof by Perimeter. In the catalog panel, I'm just going to grab the 612 slope roof. I'm going to bring it into my drawing area, and I'm just going to left click once in the middle of the design. This creates a roof over the entire design, so the existing house and the new addition. We only want to show the quantity information for the new addition. So what we can do here is we can actually go in and we can convert this to be surfaces. So I'm going to select the roof, make any adjustments that you need to. So if you want a gable end on any of these edges, make sure you convert it to be a gable end before you adjust this. So if I want this to be a gable, this to be a gable, and this to be a gable, make sure that you change those first. Hip to a gable, say OK, and then you can right click and convert to surfaces. When you select convert to surfaces, it's going to allow you to choose the surface type that you want to use. And in mine, I have a asphalt shingle roof surface. And I'm just going to say OK to that. So again, this is still going to quantify absolutely everything in that roof, but it's now broken it into individual surfaces for us. And I can get pretty technical with this. So I can say, well, this is going to be a roof that's going to have, it's just going to be built over top of the existing structure. So it's not really going to cut the roof out here. So I can start to manipulate how this roof is going to look. So I can simply say, well, this surface is actually going to be like that. And that will create the actual slope of that surface. And then this roof will be built on top of it. So you can get pretty technical with how you want these surfaces to be displayed. But the main reason why we want to break this into surfaces is because we can simply select all the other surfaces that represent the existing house. And then we can actually create a new surface called existing. So if I go in here and I say right click, replace, I'm going to delete this one out. So I'm just going to go delete and I say OK. And we're going to select this one and we're going to go add element. And I'm going to call it existing. So again, we're creating a brand new surface based off of the original, which was the asphalt roof shingle, but we're going to add the name existing at the end. Everything else is going to be the same. We can adjust the appearance if we want to. If you don't want to show the shingles, you can change that. Line work, again, if we want to show a different line style for the roof, we can. So in here, we can just say in the 2D footprints, instead of being roofs, we're going to change that to be roofs existing. This may not be in your catalog. So if you want to add in a new layer, simply click add, give it a name, and we'll call it roofs, and we're just going to call this existing 2, and then you can give it a new color, pick the color that you want, say OK. Again, the line style that you want, we're going to do dashed, and then we're going to do a very light line style. And then we're going to say OK. So now it's applying this new roof's existing to, and we're going to do the same for if we add in a hatch pattern, what pattern do we want for that as well? And you would adjust the layer to be whatever you want here. And again, we're just going to use the roof's existing to, and we'll say OK. And then under quantity, this is where it's going to change. So now we're adopting the properties from the main surface that we had in, and that main surface was showing all of the framing options, and it's also showing all of the assemblies. So we need to go in and say, remove that, remove that, remove that. All of this is going to be removed, so it doesn't show up in our reports. And then we're going to make sure we uncheck replace with assemblies and uncheck include in quantities. And the last thing I want to do is go back up to size, and under the specify framing, I want to go through here and turn off the framing for everything. So no, I don't want to see the framing for the rafters, for the openings, for the fascia, for the ridge. None of this should be being displayed because it's already a part of the existing design. And we're just gonna make sure that everything says no, good, say okay, and then okay, and then okay. And so now what you're going to see is that new line style, which is a little bit hard to tell the difference, but that one is more of a greeny brown color where this is a gray color, but you can see that it's changed them. And what we've essentially done here is we've now just split this up into, if I go to Tools, Analyze, and I generate a project estimate, I'm going to see what is new versus what we're going to need in that design. So we're not going to see anything from the existing design, only what is going to be new to this design. The only thing I didn't change, and I like to use the quote generator just so you can see how things are delivered to the site. I do believe I forgot to turn off the automatic floor option. So here we're seeing roof finishes, drywall, interior finishes. Yes, so we're still seeing the interior finishes. So we're seeing the actual flooring. And in my 2D plan view, if I go in here and I say view filters, I'm just going to turn off the roofs for right now. And if I go into a 2D plan view, I left the automatic floor option turned on. So when I started drawing this, if I don't want to show floors in my existing plan, I can simply go up to settings, document settings, and under the building aids tab, I can simply uncheck automatically insert floors. This will prevent the floors from being added in. But if I still want to show floors throughout my design, I can simply go back and just like we did with the roofs, I can leave the new floor in here. I can select these other floors, right click, and I can go into the properties here. And actually, no, we're going to do, we're just going to delete those ones out. Let's just delete them all out. We'll make this easy on ourselves. And we're just going to go into the floors by room. And this is just going to be the floor finishes. So I just want to show floor finishes. So this one here is going to be just the floor finish for that room. It is going to have the quantity information to help show how much material is going to be needed. But I also want to show the same hardwood in these other rooms. Or maybe I want to redo all the floors in here because we're removing this wall. We want to redo the floors in here. I can simply just show the new floors throughout this design. Now, I wouldn't do floor by room here. I would do floor by picking points because I want to show the floor underneath this wall. So I would just do floor by picking points, and then I'm just going to pick my points here like so, and I'm going to place that new floor in. So now I'm seeing a new floor here and a new floor here, and then this I can leave without a floor, or if I want to show the floor in here for whatever reason, maybe I'm walking through there but I don't want it to quantify, I would create another new element in here called hardwood existing or ceramic tile existing, and then give it the proper material that you want to show, but make sure the quantity information is removed. The only other thing I want to show in here before we move on to adjusting our working drawing sheets is the visibility of what this is going to look like. So we added in, and I'm going to turn on the roof back on here. So we can go back into roof, and we're just going to turn that back on. So we're now seeing that wall in here. So that wall will allow us to see what that looks like with the open space now. We're seeing through this area here and here because we've made this glass and it's intersecting with these walls. So you're going to see that, see through that. However, you can go in and you can simply just select the edge and you can move it so that it doesn't actually snap to the walls themselves. And what I do here is I just simply move it so that it snaps to, and I get it as close as I can to there. And then I just kind of lengthen this up and I get it as close as I can without it actually snapping to the walls. And then I just manipulate this dimension. So I'll make that moving that endpoint. We're going to say 8'2", and we'll say, let's just do 8'3" for now, and we'll say okay. So that's going to bring the edges of that wall up to there. And then in our 3D view, it will no longer cut the wall out, but we'll see this is where the wall was. We can kind of see through that wall now, or I can change the material completely. And I can just go into Properties, Appearance, and instead of using Common Glass, I'm just going to grab everything right down to Openings. I'm going to click on the Common Glass. And I'm actually going to move this into I'm going to create a new one in a new folder here. We'll just do it under, let's put it under miscellaneous. I believe we have a miscellaneous in here. I may have already created one. I did. It's called Invisible, but I'll create a new Invisible 2. So you can see, I'm just going to say Invisible 2. And we're going to make sure that it is completely transparent. We're going to make sure that it has a color of white. And again, like I said, it's going to be completely transparent. It's not going to have any specular reflection. Nothing is going to be assigned to it. We're going to make sure that it has an index of refraction of air. And we're just going to simply say, okay. This will create that material. And you know what, let's just create it right from scratch so you can see. Right click, add material, Invisible 2. It's not going to be a texture, it's just going to be a color. It's going to be white. It's going to be completely transparent. So we're going to make sure that that's set to 0. And now we can simply say save. And it's now created that invisible. And we can say okay. And now what we're going to see is absolutely nothing in 3D, but in 2D, we're going to see the green or the red dotted line. So again, if you want to show the client what that open space is going to look like in a 3D view here, the wall is there in 2D, but it's not going to be visible in 3D. So now that we have added in everything into our model view, and we've shown what is going to be everything under the new drawing file, which we named Nick Proposed, we can go into our working drawing sheets, and we still have the original drawing sheet or the original Smart View in here. And this is actually going to use the Smart View, and we can see it as existing name is existing floor plan. And I don't ever want to adjust this. If I adjust this, I'm going to lose that information. So I want to make sure that I don't update this. So when I do any kind of adjustments, if I do a Smart View and I do a update Smart Views global, I want to make sure I always uncheck this existing floor plan. Alternatively, you could simply select this and explode it. That will break the linkage back to the model. I don't really recommend doing that, but that is another way of protecting your existing file. But again, the main reason that I had you create the original and call it existing and do a save as and build off of that is just for this case. Just in case something happens, you will always have the original file, the original existing file, saved somewhere as a backup that you can always refer back to. So we're going to add in our new Smart View here. So we're going to go in and we're going to select underneath our insert, we're going to select Smart Views and we're going to say Define Smart View. And under the Define Smart View, we're going to go through the same process. We're going to give this a new name and we're just going to call this Proposed or you can call it new construction, whatever you want this to be called. We're going to call it proposed floor plan. And then we're going to go in, and again, we're going to make sure that it is set on the ground floor location, set at 1/4 inch, going to be a drawing. And then in our view filter, we're going to make sure we turn off anything we don't want to see. So on my elements on terrain, I'm going to make sure the terrain is turned off. On the elements on location, I can uncheck all locations. And if I've added in a foundation plan or a second floor, I don't want to see them on my first floor plan, I can simply uncheck all locations, select the location that I don't want to see, and say display none. Same with the second floor, display none. So now I'm only seeing information from that ground floor. Then I can simply say okay. Again, just double checking I got everything added in the way that I want. Name is proposed floor plan. It is on the ground floor location, set at 1/4 inch scale, set as a drawing, and I can simply say insert, and it will now insert that new floor plan, and we will see a side-by-side of the proposed with the new, or sorry, the existing with the proposed addition. So that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about in today's class. So I am just going to go ahead and open up the questions section. So if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and enter those in. I do want to highlight one thing. So I'm going to go back into model while I wait for some questions to come in. And let's say that I do have to make a change. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to say, let's add in some dimensions here. So I'm going to go into tools, dimensions, and I'm going to say auto exterior dimensions, and it will add in all of those dimensions for me. If I go back into the floor plan, I need to update the inserted views to take in that new adjustment. So if you remember, I talked about the update smart views global, which is a great tool. So if you've added in sections, elevations, and floor plans, and it's gonna, the changes that you've made is going to affect all of them, make sure you use the update smart views global, but uncheck existing floor plan, because we don't want to update that, or it'll take in all the new changes that you've made. So we want to make sure you uncheck existing floor plan. And again, that's why I had you rename it. Then when you say update, the new smart view will, the smart view will now update with all the new changes, but the proposed or the existing will stay the same. One question is, why do you not explode? I don't explode just because it then loses the smart view characteristics. So if I was to explode this, it's not wrong. It's just, it breaks it into individual lines. So if I go in here and I right click and I explode it, it's going to say you're going to be exploding a smart view. You can say okay. So now it's just individual lines. It's never going to update now, so that's fine. I mean, I can create this and create a block out of it if I wanted to, so that I can move it all as one. It's just a couple of extra steps that you have to do. So that's why I tend not to explode my smart views. But in this case, it is an acceptable way to protect the proposed plan from being changed, is to explode it, because now it's lost its functionality or its linkage back to the smart view itself. So again, you can. I typically don't, just because it's now all individual lines, and if I need to move it, I have to make sure I select everything. Or if I want to make it all one block, I have to go in and now create it as a block and say define block, call it existing plan, and then pick my point. We'll say that's the point. We're going to say convert the block, say okay. So now it's a block again, and I can move it all as one, and I can see the block name. So you can explode it. Again, it's going to be up to you how you feel is going to be best for you. But there are a couple of different ways of doing this, as we've outlined today. I hope that helps explain it. If you have any questions about that, let me know. I will keep the question section open for just a little bit longer just to see if there's any other questions or any follow-up questions. While I wait for the questions to come in, I'm just going to reiterate that I will be sending out an email that contains a document that covers everything that we've talked about today. So that way, again, you can try this out on your own. Should you happen to have any problems while doing this on your own, you can contact our support department and they'll be happy to help you out with any questions you may have. So a question was, how did I put all the measurements in? So when I went back into model view, I just went up to tools and I went to dimensions and I went to auto exterior dimensions, and it will automatically dimension based on the settings that you have defined. So if I go up to settings, document settings, under the dimension auto exterior, I have these options defined for how I want my exterior dimensions to be displayed, and it will just add them in based on these options. So again, I just went up and I'll delete these out so you can see. And I just went to tools, dimensions, auto exterior, and it will automatically add in all those dimensions for me. And then I just went back to my floor plan and I selected the smart view and I just went in and said update. You can click the update option here and it will update just the selected smart view. But again, if you have multiple smart views that need to show this change, use the update smart views global. We're just going to use update and it will update just that smart view with the changes. All right, so I'll just pause there for just another moment just to see if there's any other questions or any follow-up questions. All right, perfect. So I do want to thank everybody for attending today. I do look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. So thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.